According to my clock, we are at 1:30, so I believe it's time that I call this meeting of the South Central Pennsylvania Genealogical Society to order. My name is Richard Conkle, and I am president of the South Central Pennsylvania Genealogical Society. And this is our second venture in doing a meeting by Zoom. I'll give you some information about upcoming meetings coming up. But first, we're sort of going outside what we usually do for our little business meeting. Usually we have a reading of the minutes from the last meeting. We're going to defer that until next month. And we usually have a treasurer's report and a membership report as well. Those things will be deferred until next month. At this time, Nicole Smith, who is the librarian and archivist at the York County History Center, will give us an update of events going on at the York County History Center.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for joining us, everyone. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the chat, or if you're on Facebook, you can type them in the comments and we will get to them at the end. All of our programs and webinars are being live streamed on Facebook, and as well as recorded and available on our York County History Center YouTube channel. The History Center plans to reopen to the public on April 1st. Yay. Reservations will be required. We do have a number of virtual programs this month yet. This Saturday, our second Saturday program is Hartley's Additional Continental Regiment, presented by Mark Dubin. On March 17th, for St. Patrick's Day, the Civil War Roundtable will present a program on the Irish Brigade, the Fearless Sons of Erin. That is going to be given by Chris Army and Rick Schroeder. We also have a new virtual exhibit on the Underground Railroad, which is on our website. If you go to our website, yorkhistorycenter.org, to the museum tab, you'll find that exhibit. Please check it out. And always, for more information and reservations, you can visit our website or give us a call at the History Center. Thanks.
Thank you, Nicole. Before I introduce today's speaker, I'm going to tell you about our upcoming programs. Now, our next meeting will be April 11th, 2021, and that will be held. There are a limited number of tickets that can be obtained through the History Center for that. It will be sort of like the programs were in October and November. And there will be a limited number of people there. It will also be streamed that it can be watched that way, I believe, over the Facebook channel. So that program on April 11th, which is the second Sunday, not the first Sunday, which is actually Easter Sunday, is called Mother Cumberland Researching with Cumberland County Records. That will be presented by Kara Curtis, who is from the Cumberland County Historical Society. Then things appear to be underway that May 2nd, we will have an off-site meeting. It will be a tour of Muddy Creek Forks and the Maryland Pennsylvania Railroad Preservation Society, who maintains historic buildings and a portion of the Maryland and Pennsylvania Railroad. So there's actually a train ride involved, a tour of, there's a mill and a store, and I believe they've also acquired the house that was owned by the Mr. Grove, who had the mill and the store and so forth. I don't know if that's part of the tour, but that should be very interesting. We encourage you to come if you're able to. And then again, another second Sunday, not a first Sunday, June 13th, 2021. Normally we would be awarding the Henry James Young Award. However, we felt, the board felt it was sort of unfair due to the pandemic, that if someone wins this award, they really can't have anyone there. So it's going to be a program about Henry James Young and about this award and some of the people who have received it. This award has been given out for about 30 years now. So there were quite a few recipients, many of whom are not with us anymore, but some are. And we hope that you'll find out about some of the past winners of that award, and Henry James Young, who actually in part of his career was an archivist at the Pennsylvania State Archives. So all fits together. And he was also very instrumental at the Historical Society of York County, which is now the York County History Center. So our program for today is entitled "The Pennsylvania State Archives Moves into the Future." What does the future hold for our past? A new state archives building is under construction, and with it the promise of state-of-the-art storage and access to historical materials. Hear about how the archives is planning for the future and what you can expect to find when the new building opens, and what you won't find there. That's my cuckoo clock, sorry about that. And learn about new initiatives that will make historical records even more accessible in the future. Our speaker for today is David Carmichael, who is the State Archivist of Pennsylvania. Before coming to Pennsylvania in 2014, Mr. Carmichael directed the Georgia Archives from 2000 to 2012, during which time he oversaw the design and construction of the award-winning Georgia Archives building and helped lead national efforts in emergency management, particularly for the protection of essential government records. Before becoming State Archivist of Georgia, he was the Director of Records and Archives for Westchester County, New York, for more than 16 years. He received his master's degree in History and Archives from Western Michigan University. He is a distinguished fellow of the Society of American Archivists, and one of his books, entitled "Organizing Archival Records," has provided practical guidance to small volunteer-led archives for over 25 years and is now in its 4th edition. Mr. Carmichael and his wife Yvonne live in Camp Hill. So without further ado, we'll turn the program over to the State Archivist, Mr. Carmichael.
Thank you, Richard. And I'm going to look at Nicole to make certain she can hear me. Okay.
We can hear you.
Taken months, if not years, off her life today, and I apologize to all of you for that. She's been a trooper, but my computer developed problems just as we were going to start today. So I had to switch computers, and I think we're okay now. We'll find out in a moment. I'm going to share my screen and we'll see what transpires here. Let me come over here to get it to full screen, and you tell me.
You're looking good, David.
Okay. So are you seeing just the slide?
Actually, we're seeing 2 slides at the moment.
All right, give me 1 second here, please, and I will fix that. Now you're seeing just the slide, I hope.
Not yet. Maybe the duplicate slideshow.
I may have to share again. It says it has paused, so I need to share it again. I'm glad we have the technology, but I much prefer when it works.
Yes, there you went. We're good now.
Okay, you're seeing 1 slide, I trust.
Yes.
All right, that's what we wanted. All right. So firstly, let me thank you for inviting me to speak. I think Nicole may wish that I hadn't with all the technology problems, but I do appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you today. And thank you, Jonathan Stair, for inviting me to do this initially. As you know, Jonathan was a longtime employee of the State Archives, and there's hardly a day that goes by that I don't miss him at the office, although Aaron McWilliams, who took his position, is terrific, but I still miss Jonathan. So Jonathan, know that you're missed. So what is the future of our past? The State Archives is moving into the future, as we all are, of course, and there we go. And our future is under construction. This is the early phase of the new building that is now under construction. It is a 137,000 square foot building. And people often ask me, how does that compare to what we have today? And it's very difficult to say because the space we have today is so broken up that it is difficult to sort of judge how many square feet we really have for our purposes. So suffice it to say, this building is meant to last us for many, many decades once we have moved in. If you are familiar with our current location and shown down here where it says State Museum, we are right next to the State Museum in the tall tower. I hope that all of you have visited us at least once. We are moving about 8 or 10 blocks to the north where you see this other red star. And this is a close-up of that area. And you'll see the blue outline here shows that our property is bordered by 6th Street on the west, 7th Street on the east, Hamilton on the north, and Harris on the south. And the orange outline that you see there is the federal courthouse. And it is being constructed. If you've been to Harrisburg, you've certainly seen the construction of that building. It's very tall. And you can see that at the back, in the corners, our properties actually adjoin. And a lot of development has already begun coming to fruition around this area now that these two buildings are actually under construction. Here is how the building looked this week. And as you can see, what you're looking at here on the right-hand side, there's a basement level, and then there's the first floor. There are going to be 2 more floors on top of that area. And on the left side, just getting started is the ground floor, and there will be another floor on top of that left-hand side. And I'll show you some architectural renderings of it so that you know what it's going to look like. Here's sort of a close-up of that. And I love looking at pictures of this construction. We have been working on this since 2014. And actually the planning for it to find a site and such started even before I got here in 2014. So it's been a long time coming. The building is laid out in sort of 3 distinct sections, and I want to walk you through them so that you'll have a concept of it. We have public spaces and office spaces, storage areas, and then mechanical areas. And it's designed very specifically that way so that the mechanical areas are very separate from the storage areas so that we don't have any issues with water leakage and things like that. And the public areas are very separate from storage areas. So the blue outline you see here is the area that runs parallel to 6th Street in Harrisburg. And this is the main facade of the building. And this is the architectural rendering of how that will look. These louvers that you see here in the front of this glass area are designed to really block the sunlight that can damage records and still let a lot of light into the building. And so I'm going to describe that area to you in just a moment, and I hope you'll like what you hear about it. One thing I know you'll like is outlined in this blue box right here. And in case you can't guess, it's free parking. They said it couldn't be done, and yet here it is. We are going to have free parking for visitors to the new building. This area over here that is shown in blue is the public and staff areas. And so you'll come from the parking area that I just showed you. And by the way that's going to work is you'll drive up to a gate and the gate will open and you can drive in. And then you come into the building to get the code that will let you out. So it'll be very easy to get in. If you don't come in and get a code, it won't be so easy to get out. And so we're going to reserve that for visitors to the building rather than just the general public in the area. So the blue area that is outlined over here is where the main public space is. And when you walk into the building, this will be where you're greeted. There's a welcome desk here, and off To the right, at the back of this image, is you see all those little pictures back there. We plan to have what we're calling the digital gateway, and it's going to be a very large touch screen that you will be able to use to interact with our records. You may be able to search our records there. You certainly will be able to search them a lot of places in this room, but you will be able to search them from the touch screen. You'll be able to see exhibits, maybe some videos about the archives, and hopefully it's going to be a space where we can bring classes, students, and we can make presentations right there at the digital gateway, and they can play with the touch screen and learn more about the records in the state archives. If you were standing at that digital gateway and you look to your left, where that looks like a wooden wall there are actually 2 doors right there. And when those are open, you will enter an exhibit room there. And we will really have a nice state-of-the-art exhibit room where we can exhibit original documents, and they'll be in a safe environment, secure, environmentally controlled. And so that will be exciting to us. Behind that digital gateway, you will find lockers for your belongings when you come to visit. There will be an eating area in that back area that is very nice. It will have a microwave and sink and places where you can sit and eat and relax while you're taking a break from your research. But we're trying to design this with you in mind so that when you come, you may want to spend the entire day with us. This is one of the main public areas that you're looking at here, an architectural rendering again. This is called the self-service area. And a lot of what we've been working on, as I'll talk about in a few minutes, is a lot of digitizing of records. And our sense is that patrons really would love to be self-service as much as possible. And it does not mean that we won't be there to help them, but it means that we won't be intruding on them if they don't need our assistance. If they can get the records digitally, then they don't need to go through any other hoops. They can just sit down and do their work. We will have Wi-Fi in this area so that people can work on their own devices rather than having to use our devices all the time. And it will just be a very comfortable area for people to sit and do work, look up records. And toward the back of this area, we have a lot of bookshelves. We are bringing a large chunk of what is now a staff library in our current building. We are bringing it out to the public. And so we will have county histories and genealogies and other books that have not been available publicly before. We are bringing into this area. So you will just be able to spend your time in here using the books, using the computers, sitting in these comfortable chairs and doing your research. At the very back of this room, you'll see a glass wall and there's a glass door there. And when you step into that room, that's where you will request the original documents to use. So if you're not using original documents, you can spend all of your time right out here in this self-service area. If you're using original documents, you can go back into that space. So this is what you'll see as you walk in. The ceiling, by the way, if you see in this rendering, will be a very interesting pattern. And you'll have to come to the building to find out what it is. I'm not going to tell you now, but I think you'll enjoy seeing it. If you were to turn around where we were just looking, you're looking back out toward the front entrance. That's where you just came in. And again, you'll see there's a lot of comfortable seating, a lot of windows so that you've got a lot of light coming in there. And since there won't be original documents in this space, we wanted to bring in lots of light. And those louvers that I showed you in the facade of the building will manage that light. A lot of light will come into this area and not so much light back in the original documents area. The other thing we will have in this space, there's a small room adjacent to this space that is just a project room. So if you come with a group of people, maybe there are 5 or 6 of you and you're working together and you want a space where you can sit together and talk about your research and what you're finding, this will be that kind of space. You can come in here, You can sit and work and you won't be disturbing others and they won't be disturbing you. And so you can have a little group session in here. We also hope to use this for classes. And if we get a small class of high school students or college students, we can bring them into this space. They won't be disturbing you while you're out in the self-service area, but they'll be in here doing their work. And this space will have video monitors and things like that that they can use. So we think it's going to be a very convenient space. For larger groups, also adjacent to that self-service area, we will have a large classroom community meeting sort of room. And again, we will have video monitors in here. We'll have projectors, whiteboards, places where you can hold meetings, and we can hold training sessions. A lot of people don't know, I think, that the state archives, in addition to caring for the historical records of the state, is also responsible for records retention in the state. And we do a lot of training of local governments, of state agencies, and other people on how to care for their records, when to destroy the records that can be destroyed, how to pull out the archival records and preserve those with us. And so we do a lot of training, and this room will be a place we can do that, but it will also be available to other groups, such as yours, to come and hold a meeting, maybe an annual meeting or something that you want to do specially. You could come and do it in this space. So that is the public and staff area. The staff areas, by the way, are on the second floor of that tall glass structure. The back area of the building is for storage. It's dedicated to storage. And we need a lot of storage because we expect this building to last a very, very long time, God willing. And so when we move in, we hope that we will have plenty of space left to add more records as time goes by. The space, this next picture is not totally accurate, but space will have a lot of high density mobile shelving. And this shelving here has hand cranks on it, and we won't be using hand cranks. We'll be using electronic controls to control the shelving, but they will look something like this. It's a very large warehouse sort of room that is full of shelving and also full of highly specialized shelving in some rooms. We will have a lot of space for maps and oversized materials. As many of you know, and you've used many of our maps, we have a lot of building plans and maps and things like that that need special storage. And so we will have plenty of space for our oversized storage in this building. I wanted you to get some idea of the complexity of this. And I'm sure you understand that constructing a building like this is a pretty complex sort of thing. But this is one page of a many-page schedule that just shows the major milestones in the construction. And this goes for many pages. And these are just the highlight moments in the construction. And under each of those, there are details, just item after item after item that has to be done and has to be scheduled. Here's a close-up of just one section of that. Just every area, every task that has to be done, and this schedule runs to thousands of lines. And so each one of those has to be scheduled and coordinated because we have 4 different contractors working on this project. We have a general contractor, we have a heating and ventilating and air conditioning contractor, we have a plumbing contractor, an electrical contractor. All of those have to coordinate their work. And so it is a very, very complicated task. And fortunately, we have very good people working on this. We have been working on this, as I said, since 2014. And many of you know Dave Schaaf, who is the division chief for the archives section, and he's been very much involved in this planning of the new building. And the person shown on my right in this picture you may not know is Andrea Lowry, who is the executive director of the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission. The archives, as I'm sure you know, is one part of the Historical and Museum Commission. The State Museum is another part. The State Historic Preservation Office is another part. And so Andrea is the executive director of the entire commission. And before she took that job, 2 years ago now, she was the project manager for the archives project because she is an architect. And so she came into her position as executive director, thoroughly aware of what we were doing with this building. And then she became executive director, and she has the decision, the power to make decisions to give me more money when I need it. And so I bless her every day because she gives me money when I need it. And we are going to end up with a really good building because of this woman right here who understands what we're trying to do and is very much in our court on this. The process, as you might imagine, went through all kinds of design models things, and I found this very interesting. I thought maybe you would, but we had many of these different models that they made to show us what this building could look like. This particular one in the back, you might see, has a little amphitheater sort of looking thing. And there are just many different ideas that they came up with and put into models. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and we ran into problems that we hadn't anticipated, such as how to keep the meetings going when they have their own challenges, as we've demonstrated this morning with the technical problems that we have. But despite the issues, we continued through the pandemic. They were able to begin and have good social distancing and not have any issues with that. And so we are finally seeing some tangible results of all that work that we've been working on. And I think you're going to be very, very satisfied with what you see there. As I said, you're going to have free parking. You're going to have a lot of space to spread out and do your work. You're going to have comfortable, I think you're going to appreciate what you see in the building. You're also going to find some new collections when we get to the new building. The one you're looking at here is the largest major new collection that we will have in the new building. It is the Harrisburg City Archives. We have taken ownership of the Harrisburg City Archives, or custody, I should say. And here you see staff working in the building where the city used to house these records and then getting them organized. They brought them to our building, our current building, and they're now in the state archives. They're now being processed. And the records we've found so far begin in the 1870s. And we think there could be even earlier records in there. There are city directories, city council records, police records, fire records. And so I think for genealogists, you're going to find access to a lot of records that maybe have been very difficult to get hold of in the past. What you're not going to find in the new building is microfilm. We have given away all of our old microfilm readers. I will say Jonathan Stair, I think, clung to one of them as it went because he loved having the microfilm handy. But we are planning not to take microfilm readers to the new building. We will have a couple of them in the back to use in an emergency, but we're not going to make you use them. We are digitizing all 30,000 reels of our microfilm, our public research film. We are well along with that project, and they are going to be as digital images rather than as microfilm. And as you know, that will be much, much easier to use. We are putting many of them right now in the Power Library through the State Library website, digitalarchives.org/PSA. And you can get to that site from the State Archives website, which I'll talk about in just a second. You can already see a lot of our microfilm in the Power Library. We probably will not put it all there. You may have to come to the building to see some of it. but you will be able to use it as digital images and not as microfilm. We would like to make it all available online eventually, but that's going to take some time. So we have other things we've been working on recently, and I'm going to go through these rather quickly so that I can have time for questions and answers. The microfilm is one of the things, obviously, that we've been working on, and this is a screenshot from some of the film that is on the Power Library. Scanning the film, we are breaking it up into the collections so that if there are 3 collections on a reel of film, we're breaking it up into those 3 collections rather than keeping it all together on one reel. It will make it easier for you to use. You can browse by the department that created the records, or you can browse by subjects. This is the department shot here. And when you look at the film, we've scanned it at high resolution. And your first look at it, it may look tiny, but you can enlarge it and you can print it out and you can keep zooming into it so that you get a really good picture of the image. And unlike microfilm, where it's a bit harder sometimes to zoom in, you'll be able to do that with the image. We have introduced a new finding aid system called Eloquent, and we're actually changing that name to the Arch. So you may hear about the Arch in the future, but right now it's called Eloquent. And Eloquent is replacing our existing finding aid system called Archon. If you've used it, you may recognize the word Archon. Eloquent has some really nice features that I think you will enjoy a great deal. One is that we're making it very simple. When you first come in, you just have a keyword search and you can click on advanced search if you want to do more advanced searching, but you don't have to. You can just put in a keyword and go. Another thing it has is this featured content thing that you see down here. And this gives us a chance to take some of our collections and bring them out front and center. This is a collection of documents from 2 World Wars and the Great Depression. And again, it was a featured content on Eloquent. Today is Charter Day, I hope you know. And on Eloquent, we are featuring an exhibit about the Charter and documents that surround the Charter. So I hope that you will take some time to go and look at Eloquent through the state website when you get a chance. You can do a keyword search, as I said, and this is what your results look like. They're arranged by series, and you're probably very familiar with that if you've used our website before. And you can also do a very advanced search. You can do a keyword. You can say, I only the word when it occurs in the series title, for instance. And then you get much fewer results. Instead of 80 results, you get 20 results in this particular example. It found the keyword inside the scope and content note of the series. And so it searches everywhere for the words that you are looking for. And then it gives you a way to drill down, clear down to the box and the item level. If the item is in the finding aid, you can drill down to that. And you will have the ability to save whatever you want to a list. So as you're searching through, you will be able to click on these buttons that say Save to List. And you will be able to keep your own list of what you've been looking at. And more importantly to you, perhaps, you will be able to send this list to us so that when you arrive at the archives, we can have your records already pulled and already waiting for you so that you don't have to spend a lot of time waiting for your records to come out of the vaults, but you will have sent us your list in advance and we will prepare them for you before you get there. We are doing a lot of preparation for the move, as you can imagine. And I don't have time to tell you in great detail all of what we're doing, but you can see here, putting barcodes on boxes, boxing things that were not in boxes originally. Imagine for a moment if you were to box your 3-bedroom house 48 times. That's what we're doing here. We are going to move a 3-bedroom house 48 times in order to move our 200 million documents. So it's a lot of preparation we have to do. In addition to getting ready for the move, we have spent a lot of time reformatting and digitizing materials beyond microfilm. We've been working on microfilm, but we're also reformatting negatives and movies that are deteriorating. And here is an example of some nitrate film that is deteriorating badly. So we needed to get it scanned just to preserve it. We've made a few discoveries in the process. We found a 1641 census for Frankstown Township in Blair County. In Georgia, when we moved the state archives, people would ask me, well, did you lose anything when you moved? And I would always say, no, but we found a lot of stuff. And we're finding a lot of stuff that we didn't know we had lost, maybe. We found this 1826 passport in the process of reboxing some records that was very interesting. So that is sort of a lot of what we're doing around move prep. Let me just tell you one or two other things we're doing, and then I'm going to stop and take your questions. We have been working on something called the Community History Dialogue this year. And the goal of this is to help underrepresented communities, minority communities, and communities that generally have not been well represented in archives, to help them identify and preserve their history, either by doing it themselves or by partnering with established archives. And we have had a huge, huge response to this Community History Dialogue. We know of at least one group that has already begun seeing their archives as a result of this, but we have had hundreds of people come to our Community History Dialogues. And again, you can look at our website and you can get information about how to sign up and come to those. We have also been working on digital archives, and we are doing a major project with a number of partners in the state to preserve the records that are being created electronically today. Many, many of the records that you use in your research are now being created in their original form as electronic records. And we need to preserve those records for hundreds of years. And so we are working on a digital archives that will do just that. It will preserve these records for many hundreds of years. That could be an entire episode in itself, so I'm not going to say any more about it. I'm going to give you the three little URLs that you might want to know. The only one you really need to know is the one on the bottom, which is our main website, www.pastatearchives.org. And if you go there and you click on online research, you will find all of these other links to Eloquent and to all the other things that you need to find. So pastatearchives.org is the one you need to remember. And there is hope of spring in the air. And I want to leave you with that idea that spring is coming and the vaccine is coming, and we are going to get back to where you can come and visit us in the very near future, I am hoping. So I thank you for your attention. And on that note, I'm going to turn it back over to Nicole.
Well, thank you, David. It's very exciting. We are also at the History Center working on building plans, so it's all, I'm soaking it up like a sponge. But very exciting. We do have some questions. Let's see. There was a question about the self-service areas and the classrooms. Will they have, self-service project rooms and classrooms? Will they have Wi-Fi, power outlets for laptops and phones at each desk?
So we are putting, we do have Wi-Fi in the building. We are working to have public Wi-Fi in the building, and any of you who might work for the state may understand that for the state to open up public Wi-Fi to the public is a big step. And so we've been working on them for a couple of years, and they're working on that with us at the moment. And so we expect to have public Wi-Fi there. we will have plenty of outlets, and the seating that we're having, a lot of it is along walls, and so you'll have an outlet right at your desk, your seat. Some of the seating is out from the wall a bit in little groups, and there may not be an outlet right there, but you might not want to sit there if you need an outlet. And so you'll have plenty of places you can go to get an outlet when you need one. And so you should have plenty of juice when you're there.
Yeah, it's good. Let's see. Different kinds of questions. Is the current archives building going to be repurposed?
So we're doing, the Historical Museum Commission is doing a study of the current building. The current building is on the Historic Register of the National Register of Historic Buildings. So it will remain right there. So they're doing a study of how they might use the building. And as you may or may not know, the building is the tower, but it's also, there's a large section of offices around courtyards in that building. And so there have been ideas that the museum might move out into that space, maybe have an education center in one part of the building. The tower could be repurposed for storage of artifacts that are appropriate there. One of the problems we have is that the building is more than 50 years old. The environmental envelope around the building is deteriorated. And so that's a challenge, but you could certainly store things like archaeological artifacts in a building like that. And the Historical Museum Commission has millions of archaeological artifacts, and stones and things like that don't really deteriorate when you stick them in a building like that. So it could be that it is used for that, but it will still be there, and it will just be used by the commission for something else.
Great, great. Is there an estimate for when the archives will open? Both the current archives and the new building?
Yes, well, we hope that that will be reopened before we get to the new building, that's for sure. All right, so the new building, to start there, our target date for completion is June 8th of 2022. And it will take us several months after that before we actually open to the public, because as I said, we're moving 48 3-bedroom houses. It's not going to happen overnight. And I've never known a building project to actually hit its target completion date. But I will say we have a really good general contractor who is overseeing this whole project. It's the same company, by the way, that is building the courthouse. And so they are used to building huge projects, and they are building the building. And they're big enough that they are able to make up lost time when we have lost time. And right now we are pretty much on schedule. We're only maybe a couple of weeks behind schedule, and this company is large enough that they could make up that time before the end. So I really do see the target of June of 2022 as being within reach. And then a few months after that, sometime in the fall of 2022, we will reopen to the public. Now, as for the current building, we do not yet have a date, a target date for reopening. We are guided by the governor's office, and they tell us when we can and when we can't. It is challenging, as you can imagine. Those of you who have been to the archives know that the staff have to be pretty close to the patrons at times in order to assist them. And so we want to make certain that both patrons and staff are safe. And so we will wait until we can make sure that people are safe. And what we are likely to do is we will reopen on a scheduled basis where we will maybe take 3 researchers at a time so that we can spread them way out. And you will have to sign up if you want to come in. And that will be our initial opening, and then we'll slowly increase that. We are anxious to be back to see you all and to open our doors to you. We're not dragging our heels. We are getting a lot done while we're out of the building, I will say. But the staff are getting a lot done, but they are very anxious to get back. We do have reference staff who go to the building a couple times a week to answer questions that cannot be answered through digital records. And I will say the reference staff, Aaron McWilliams, is leading that, and he has done a terrific job keeping up to speed on the reference question. So feel free to send your reference questions to him, and he'll try to answer them, because we know you can't come in and do it yourself. And so we're trying to keep up. We've been doing a pretty good job, and we will be open just the minute we possibly can, I promise you.
Thank you. We have a number of questions. Would you mind repeating the total square feet and the, I guess, of storage and of public space?
The entire building is 137,000 square feet. And the vast majority of that is storage, as you can imagine. That's really what we do. And so of the non-storage areas, it's divided almost half and half, I think, between staff spaces and public spaces. So I can't tell you the exact square footage on that score.
Great. There's a couple of questions here about digital records. Will there be access to digitized deeds for all counties in the self-service area? So I guess the question is, what kind of access will be in the self-service area?
I'm going to ask you to repeat that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Will the new self-service area have access to digitized recorded deeds for all Pennsylvania counties?
Okay. That's a good question. The records that we have of counties in the state archives are the microfilmed records. And our agreement, this predates me and many of you by many decades, back when the records were microfilmed in the counties. The agreement was that we could make those records available in our search room, but we couldn't give copies of the records to people. They could come in and make their own copy from the microfilm, but we could not send copies to them. We couldn't, eventually we couldn't digitize them and put them out online. And so we are working on scanning and digitizing those records, but those particular records you will have to come into the archives to see, because we can't put them out on the internet. What we intend to have is a separate network just for the county records that were on microfilm, and you will be able to look them up and use them as digital records. We will only have the deeds that we microfilmed. And you can ask Jonathan Stair, because he will know off the top of his head. Maybe he'll say in chat, but I don't know what percentage of deeds we ever microfilmed. He may know the exact number for all I know. But
okay, well, that's very good to know. And there are a couple of people asking what records would be available outside of the archives online. So
we're doing a couple of different kinds of records to put online. We are scanning microfilm of state records, because we microfilmed a lot of our own records over the years as security backup, or to make available in the search room. Many of you have used the microfilm of records. Those we can digitize and we can put online freely. And so that is one thing we're doing. We are also digitizing a lot of records that have never been filmed or scanned or anything else. And we're doing a variety of collections. Some of them we're just doing some fun collections. We're doing a very large collection of postcards that we've had for many years, and it covers every county in the state. And it's a lot of them are already out in the Power Library, and they get a lot of use. And so I encourage you to go and look. And then we are doing a lot of our photograph collections, because people love the photographs, clearly. And so we're digitizing those, and we can put those in the Power Library. And then we are just scanning a number of other records that we have. We're scanning a lot of our movie footage, which we can't put online because it's huge volume of the files are so huge. But when you come to the archives, you will be able to look at the film in its digital form and not have to wait for us to go and send it out, have it copied and everything like that. So those are exciting things. Our biggest issue at the moment with the Power Library and with anybody else we have dealt with is that the volume of records that we want to put online is overwhelming to people. The Power Library, for instance, the State Library has been a tremendous partner with us, but they originally developed the Power Library for small libraries to put materials in. And when we came along, we are not a small library. And we sort of overwhelmed them. And we're trying to work out how can we keep this going without completely overwhelming their systems. So stay tuned, there's more to come.
Yeah, there's so many things going on with digital these days. Someone had a question about archive grid. If that was something that the state archives would be part of. I've not heard of archive grids, so.
And I have heard of it. Again, we explore a lot of these different tools online. And recently we've been experimenting with one of the online tools, I can't remember, History Pin, I guess it's called, where you pin images on a map and such. We've been experimenting with that one. We've experimented with a lot of them. We don't have plans right now to use History Grid. One of our strategies, again, as you realize, is to sort of spread out different records to different online resources. And so a lot of our genealogical records we're making available through Ancestry.com. And I want to remind you that if the record came from the Pennsylvania State Archives, you can access it free of charge if you come through the State Archives website to get to it. So you come to the State Archives website, when you click on that link for online research, there's a link for Ancestry Pennsylvania. And from there, you can get access to any record that came from the State Archives that is in Ancestry. By the way, you may already know this, but the State Library is offering free access to Ancestry if you're a state employee at the moment. So if you know a state employee and you want the things for you, find them, be nice to them, and ask them to go and look at the State Library. So don't tell anybody I told you that.
That's great. Wow. Great opportunity there. Let's see, we have a couple minutes, I think. There's a question about how to request records if you don't live locally. I guess that would be like a research request.
Yes. Again, if you go to our website, you'll find a link. You can submit your request online, and the reference will tell you if you need to fill out a form or if you need other things you need to do. A lot of times they'll just look at your request first and see if they can do it, and they may call you or something or email back and forth, and then they'll tell you, okay, I can do this form so that I can put it in the hopper. Feel free to contact us, phone or email. Reference staff are still checking the phone messages, so feel free to leave a message, and we'll tell you if we can get you the record. We may tell you it is a complex search and you need to come in, so you'll need to wait until we reopen. But for the most part, we've been doing a lot of the searching ourselves, so you can't come.
Great. Yeah, that sounds like good advice for getting more details on records. I think that's about it.
Yes, I noticed someone asked about the 1641 census from Frankstown Township. Again, if you email the staff, they will see if they can get you a copy of that. Tell them I sent.
Wonderful. Richard, do you want to pop back on to say goodbye?
Yes, if there's no more questions, we thank our speaker today very much, and the meeting is adjourned, and we hope to see you again on April the 11th.
Great.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.